حي على الفلاح.
When Kalib ibn Yoofana died after Yusha, Hizqeel ibn Boodhi succeeded him as a prophet of the children of Israel. Have you not considered those who left their homes in many thousands, fearing death? Allah said to them, "Die." Then He restored them to life, and Allah is full of bounty to the people. But most of the people do not show gratitude. Scholars among the Salaf, they say that these people were the resident of a city during the time of the children of Israel. The weather in their land did not suit them, and an epidemic broke out. The population of the city was about 70,000. The rich people left the city and went to another place to save themselves from death, but the poor stayed there as the epidemic spread and people started dying. Those people started thinking that if they had left the city, they too would have been saved. After that, they decided that the next time there was an epidemic, they wouldn't stay in the city. When they were stuck again by the epidemic, they all left their houses and took refuge in the wilderness. They later arrived at a fertile valley, and they filled what is between its two sides. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent two angels to them, one from the lower side and the other from the upper side of the valley. The angels screamed once, and all the people died instantly, just as the death of one man. They were later moved to a different place, where walls and graves were built around them. They all perished, and their bodies rotted and disintegrated, except their bones. Once a caravan passed by the way where the bones were scattered. They saw the bones lying on the way. They collected the bones, kept them aside, and cleared the way for the passers-by. Long afterwards, one of the prophets of the children of Israel, whose name was Hizqil, Ezekiel, passed by them. When he saw the human bones lying in a bad condition, he grieved and wept much. He raised his hand to Allah and prayed, "O Allah, make them alive again in the same way as you have taken away their lives, so that the city can again be prosperous and they can increase the number of your followers and true believers." Allah was pleased with him and asked, "O Prophet, do you want me to take them alive?" The Prophet replied, "Yes, my Lord." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted his supplication and commanded him to say, "O rotted bones, Allah commands you to come together." The bones of everybody were brought together. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then commanded him to say, "O bones, Allah commands you to be covered with flesh, nerves, and skin." That also happened while Hizqeel was watching. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then commanded him to say, "O souls, Allah commands you to return, each to the body that it used to inhabit." They all came back to life, looked around and proclaimed, "Glory be to you, O Allah, and praise is due to you. There is none worthy of worship except you." Ibn Abbas reported that the dead who were resurrected were 4,000, while Ibn Salih said there were 9,000. Then they all returned to their people who knew that they were dead before. After that, they lived their full lives, which had been written for them. Muhammad ibn Ishaq said, "Nothing was mentioned to us regarding the period of Hizqeel stayed among the children of Israel, and even regarding his death. However, after his death, the children of Israel forgot the covenant with Allah and started worshipping idols. Amongst the idols they worshipped was an idol called Baal. Then Allah sent to them Prophet Ilyas ibn Yasin. After the capture of Jerusalem, a tribe from the Israelites settled north in Baalbek. They were ruled by a tyrant king. It is reported that the city was originally called Bek, but the king had an idol made by the name of Baal and forced people to worship it. Later, the names Baal and Bek were combined, and the city henceforth called Baalbek. It was there that Ilyas alayhi salam was sent as a prophet to invite its people back to the truth. The idol Baal, which the people worshipped, was made of gold and stood about 10 meters. When Ilyas said to his people, "Will you not fear Allah? Do you invoke Baal and abandon the best of creators?" Allah your Lord and Lord of your forefathers. But the people denied and rejected him, called him a liar, insulted him, and threatened to slay him. But he remained patient. Again, he invited people towards Allah and to obey his commands, but their attitude became worse day by day. Ilyas informed the king to give up all controversies, otherwise Allah will destroy you. The king became very angry and decided to punish him severely and slay him. Ilyas learnt of it and left the city and took shelter on a mountain. It was said that Ilyas was in the mountain for 10 years. When Allah destroyed that king and another replaced him, Ilyas came to him and presented to him Islam. He accepted the invitation, and along with him, a large number of his people also became believers. Yet, they were an unruly people, and it was not long before they again lost their way and became rebellious. Although Ilyas advised them once more, they would not listen. Then the divine command arrived, and Ilyas left the city. They all perished. They were met with the punishment here and are bound for another in the hereafter. The Almighty declares, but they disputed him. So they will indeed be accused, except for Allah's exclusive servants. After leaving Baalbek, Ilyas stopped by a village. He invited its people to the truth. They accepted the divine invitation and asked Ilyas to stay. Ilyas was lodged at the house of an old woman. She had an ill son. Ilyas offered a 2 rak'ah prayer and asked the Lord to cure the child. The child was healed. Later, Ilyas alayhi salam took the child under his wings and taught him the Torah. The child's name was Ilyasa. It is narrated that when the angel of death appeared, Ilyas became terrified. The angel of death asked, "Is a prophet of Allah afraid of death?" Ilyas said, "No." He said, "All my life, I try to serve my Lord, advise others to do good, and discourage them from evil. I tried spending my time in worship and good deeds, and leading a life of good morals. This gave me peace and provided for my heart a source of joy. I am now sad that death will separate me from these pleasures and confine me to a grave until the day of judgment." Allah said, "We left for him a good name, and for those to come, peace be to Ilyas. Thus indeed do we reward the virtuous. He is surely one of our faithful servants." Muhammad ibn Ishaq reported from Hassan al-Basri as saying, Ilyasa came after Ilyas, peace be upon them. He stayed among them for as long as Allah willed, calling his people to the way of Allah and following the laws and Sharia revealed to Ilyas. He did this till he passed away. It is said that he was the cousin of Prophet Ilyas. It is also said that he hid with Ilyas in the cave when the latter hid from the king of Baalbek. When Ilyas came out of his hiding, Ilyasa also went with him to his people. When Ilyas died, Ilyasa took over his mission when Allah made him a prophet to his people. It was said that one of the supernatural occurrences through which Allah upheld Prophet Ilyasa was that he resurrected the dead and healed the one conceived visually impaired, and the leper, and the river Jordan was dried from him. So he strolled across it. The drinking water in Jericho had turned sour. The people rushed to Ilyasa alayhi salam and asked for help. He threw some grains of salt in the water and said, "Be sweet." And with the permission of Allah, the water became sweeter than before, as it is referenced in Jewish sources. Allah knows best how true these are. During Elisha alayhi salam's prophethood, the tribes of Israel began to vie with one another for leadership. Ignoring Elisha alayhi salam's advices, they got into a tussle with seemingly endless bouts of unrest and fighting. As a result, the Almighty set upon them the Assyrian kingdom. Through their own doing, the Israelites had fallen remote from divine mercy. The Assyrians defeated them and consigned them to misery. And we guided Ismail, Ilyasa, Yunus, and Lut, and to all we favored over the nations. And mention Ismail, Ilyasa, and Dhul Kifl, and they were all of the best.